Hello, everyone, and welcome to our monthly discussion panel with our wonderful professionals and experts. My name's Darren Fink. I'm with Transfiguring Adoption, and Transfiguring Adoption creates media and resources that nurture growth and foster and adoptive families. We help caregivers so that we can give a hoot about kids. So I just wanted to welcome everyone again, and before I get to our panelists real quick, I just wanted to lay down the normal housekeeping that we have before each discussion panel, and that is consequently that we are not using this discussion or saying that this is in any way legal, medical, counseling advice or replacement for anything your agency says. We are just getting on here to talk and resource as caregivers and professionals just to be able to help kiddos. So please don't sue us. Also, this is a live discussion. So if you were on with us on our live discussion and not watching this on our YouTube channel, you can go ahead and get your questions ready. And you can get me your questions by going on to Twitter and use the hashtag #TAdopt. That's T as in Tom, adopt. And as long as you're using that hashtag in your tweet, I will find it. Or you can email me at Darren, D-A-R-R-E-N, at transfiguringadoption.com. Or we also have, if you're on a desktop right now, there is a chat panel, a question and answer panel with Google Hangout that you can use to get me your questions, and I will get to them toward the end of our discussion, and our panelists will answer them. So I also just, lastly, before we get to the panelists, wanted to tell you that our next discussion panel is going to be on July 22nd at 7 p.m. It's also a Friday, and the topic is going to be coping with being investigated, and that's one that a lot of foster parents have been asking our organization about because it's becoming more common as caregivers to be investigated, and there's a lot of fear and stress that goes with that. So we'll have some professionals and experts to hopefully help calm some fears with that. So that's July 22nd, and you can find more information about that under our events on Facebook. So, but without further ado, we are here to talk about thriving during the summer. Summer has just hit, and we have kiddos in our house longer than we did during the school year, and for some of us that can be a little bit nerve-wracking and scary. So I have three wonderful people with me that I want you to make use of and talk and ask your questions to them so that you can thrive during the summer. But panelists, I want you to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us your name, and just what do you bring to the discussion today, either professionally or experientially. So I'm not sure who wants to start, but
well, I'll go ahead and get
started. Okay.
My name is Deanne. Cut that right there. My name is Deanne, and I'm with Embrace Parent Solutions. And my husband and I actually are a coaching team for parents of kiddos who come from difficult places or come from difficult neurological challenges as well. And so my husband and I came to this through our own experiences. I am a trained and certified parent educator. He is a pastor with a degree in pastoral care and counseling. And we come to this to try to help parents enjoy their children again. We got to a place about 4 years ago where we realized we weren't enjoying our children. Our oldest we adopted from a difficult place about 11 years ago. And our youngest came to us biologically and came to us with some significant neurological challenges and behavioral challenges, and so we had to relearn how to parent because we found that traditional parenting techniques did not work with our children and that we just weren't enjoying them. And so we have relearned neurodevelopmentally informed parenting techniques that are non-punitive and connective parenting strategies to enjoy our children, and now we have a goal to be able to help through both my public job that I work in a public school system as a parent educator in the Birth to 5 program in a public school system, and also through private coaching business to be able to help parents really learn these types of strategies that can help them enjoy their children again. You can find our information at embraceparentsolutions.com.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad you're here with us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Lynn and Allison, one of you want to duke it out for who's going next?
I can go ahead and go next.
Okay. Okay. Can you tell us your name and just tell us what you bring to the table today?
Sure. My name is Lynn Solito, and I am a foster adopt mom. I have 2 children, and I have 3 children. My biological son, and then 2 daughters who were adopted through foster care. And I guess I bring my expertise as a parent and my blog, where I am writing about my experiences as a foster adopt parent, and it is at www.lynnsolito.wordpress.com.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lynn. And Allison, we'll end with you on that question.
Sure, I'm Allison Douglas. I am an adoptive parent of 4 children, and all of my kids came from foster care as well. And currently my professional work is as a family advocate through Harmony Family Center in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I do a lot of parent education and resource linkage, and really I just listen a lot to families who are struggling with some aspect of parenting. And I just listen because I can identify it, and I've needed that same shoulder. So I really enjoy working with families whose kids are in tough places.
Wow, and I didn't even pay attention to it when I put the panel together. I was thinking of thriving during the summer and which people would be good to talk about that, but I didn't even realize when I got all 3 of you that all of you have experience, so it's not just throwing out knowledge and wisdom there. You all have been there, and so everyone that's watching or listening, you have been in their shoes at some point. So that's going to make this a great talk. So I'm going to move on, and the first, I guess the first real question that I have that isn't introducing yourselves is, our title is Thriving During the Summer, and before we get into practical stuff, what do you think it means for a foster or adoptive family to thrive during the summer? What does it mean for a family to thrive during the summer? And anyone can answer that. It's just a free-for-all, free, open conversation, and when it dies out, I'll move us to the next one.
I'd say, in my case, we're thriving if we all make it to the end of the summer alive.
I can relate with that.
You know, I want to. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lynn. Was there more?
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that thriving for us, survival is definitely the biggest part of thriving. But I would say just adjusting our expectations to what the word thrive means. I mean, I think it's a very good question. We have the Pinterest effect and the Facebook effect for moms, and these expectations of being the perfect family with the perfect experiences on basically very little income and very little support. And we're supposed to have these perfect summers for our kids and these perfect children that are just so excited to be able to do all the wonderful things we've planned. And I think we have to really adjust our expectations and set ourselves up for success. So to define thrive as, I would say as health for all of us, as best as we can, to embrace the chaos that summer brings, embrace the chaos that the lack of structure sometimes brings for our kids, and embrace the fun, because I think sometimes as a parent we're trying to survive so much that we forget that we really can embrace the fun. And so I guess thriving would for me in the summer would be to embrace health and wholeness and fun, and to disregard some of those expectations that others or we have put on ourselves that really aren't realistic.
Those are awesome. That's an awesome way to look at it. I feel like I look at it in a very similar way. It's that I meet my kids' needs and not just what I think should happen, that I move beyond the shoulds. And that's hard for me. I will be the first person to admit that that's really tough, because I want summer to look a certain way, and meeting what my kids actually need is sometimes far more difficult than planning a cute barbecue. And so for me, thriving is just staying aware of what my children need, taking care of myself so that I can meet those needs, and making sure that we all are staying communicative and just growing during the summer when things are a little out of whack.
Can I actually give my serious answer?
It was just one answer per person. We're not.
Oh, okay.
Conversation is just go for it.
For me, I think for me, thriving for myself and my kids has to do with looking at it in a positive way. Like, today, did I do better than yesterday? And by that I mean maybe I lost my temper less. I have a temper. Did my kids lose their temper less? And just kind of trying to see the little things, because I think as foster adopt parents, especially any parents really, you forget that it is about all these little things, that it's not necessarily the huge thing. For example, it wasn't during the summer, but we went to visit my parents for a week, and they live halfway across the country, and the trip went fine. It was afterwards that created problems. And then last summer, so that was like 5 years ago, last summer we got passes to Six Flags, which is about a 2-hour drive away from here. Mm-hmm. And no, it wasn't this huge, wonderful vacation, but everybody did really well with it, and it was close enough that we could turn around and come back. So when I'm in my yuck and I'm thinking, oh, this is never going to get better, it's going to, I'm so stressed, I have to remember those things. Like, maybe my kid only melted down 3 times today instead of 5 times last week. That's it.
Yeah, and I think the big thing that I hear all of you saying too is that there's nothing is getting perfect. Like even Lynn was just saying, I might be losing my temper less, or like things are getting better, and you're noting what things are. Nothing's perfect. You're not holding yourself up to that. So I think that's a huge thing too with thriving, is just noticing the little things and not expecting yourself to be at this high bar, because your kiddos probably definitely aren't at the high bar that we're expecting them to be. You probably have to lower the bar of expectation and have them meet that. Thank you so much, you guys. The next question I have is, for most of our family, or for most other families, summer's, this fun time. We were talking about vacations. They get to do all these family activities. You see on Pinterest and Facebook all these moms and dads excited about all these activities they're going to get to do with their kids, and they're just gushing with family fun and beaming. And but with our kiddos who've experienced trauma and they have trauma-caused behaviors, I hear a lot of families that feel trapped because now they're home, maybe a little bit more depressed, because they're home with these behaviors now more than they were when the kids went off to school. Can you speak to the parents about any advice that you have, parents that are feeling trapped, a little bit depressed because they're now home with these trauma-caused behaviors more, and they're feeling trapped or depressed?
For me, I think I really had to look for appropriate supports for my children. They really need structure during the summer. And so with a few of my kiddos, I asked very specifically, can these particular children be involved in summer school? Because it's good for them to have that maintained contact with other safe adults in a classroom where they feel much more successful than they do during the school year, just because the expectations are a little different. And we have a summer camp program that my children have been involved with for years through the Boys and Girls Club, and I know there are other agencies who have trauma-informed care. And just utilizing them when you need to do that, or having them go at a specific time during the day so that they always know things are going to be the same. That has made a huge difference for our children, is when they know things will be the same every day, especially they know lunch will be at the same time every day, snack will be at the same time every day, you don't have to take a backpack full of food with you. These are the same caregivers that are going to care for you every day all summer long. They love that.
That's awesome. Yeah, so definitely schedules and consistency. Fantastic.
Well, I would definitely agree with that, schedules and consistency. I think that's what has gotten me through the summers, and quite honestly what has gotten my kids through as well, because they work better on a schedule, and it makes them feel safe. I mean, I know what Allison is saying in regards to the backpack full of food. It's the whole, I don't know what's coming. So if you have that planned out as much as possible, then they feel more secure. I've also done camps with my kids. The kids don't generally act out in public. It's like we get the backlash at home. So finding a camp that can knows how to handle their behaviors isn't really a problem. It's more like mom filling her cup back up while they're at camp to prepare for them coming home.
Right.
But I think a support system is vital, and I think doing little things for yourself is really important too. Like, I don't know, I'm a coffee drinker, so maybe buying myself a Starbucks or splurging and getting the really fancy coffee at the store, just those little things that you can take that moment to appreciate. I mean, there might be chaos all around you, but wow, this is a really good cup of coffee.
It's like your own little personal Disneyland in a cup.
Exactly. Well, I'm singing Once Upon a Dream, right?
That's awesome.
Well,
Yep.
I would agree with everything that was just said, but I would also add into one of the things that has really been in my heart and mind recently, and something that I'm working on this summer. I'm actually working with a group of preschool teachers and kindergarten teachers to investigate and learn more about the concept of mindfulness. The idea of allowing ourselves enough time and space to really understand ourselves, to respond rather than to react. And I think we have such a busy lifestyle for most of us. And, our kids can be so involved in so many things that there's just not a chance to be able to even think or to be. And so I'm trying to really encourage myself and other parents to give yourself time and space to be able to do that. And I know that seems like a really crazy thing to do, because I don't know if you've been noticing, I've been muting my microphone a lot, and some of that is because I have two sons who are making quite a bit of noise in the house, and there really isn't quiet in my home if they're here. And so I've had to learn how to do that even in the midst of a lot of noise, and to say to my children, you know what, I'm here, I hear you, but I just need a minute, and that can be really powerful. It's also a great thing to model to them. Mom needs a minute just to think, just to be, and to take some deep breaths. It depends on your worldview or your personal spiritual beliefs or backgrounds. Some of us, that is, a time for prayer. Some of us, that is just time just to reconnect with ourselves and our ability to think and process. So whatever that may be for you, to be able to really hear yourself and decrease some noise, even in the midst of real chaos. And I think that sounds impossible, but I think it is possible. It's just that we don't allow ourselves to do that because we think we have to be on at 110% at all moments for our children, and we don't allow ourselves that space to say, okay, mommy needs a minute. So I guess mommy minutes, daddy minutes.
Well, it's funny that you're talking about that, and you're talking about how it's not quiet during your house, and then all of a sudden that was my doorbell ringing because I have kids coming. I mean, they're going in and out constantly, and even though I have the office doors all closed, the doorbell still came through. So fantastic. Can you guys talk about, since we're kind of hitting on it with, mom needs a minute, we're talking about some, coffee, different things. Talk to our parents about self-care. Usually they focus on everything else with the kiddos, but they neglect themselves. So can you talk to them about self-care during the summer? What does that look like? Do you have ideas for them? And how, is it maybe even an idea of, how much self-care should they be getting during the summer?
Go ahead.
Well, I really started thinking about self-care after I had become really sick, really anxious, and really angry with my kids and family. And at that time, I thought, I think my kids are in therapy. They're in about 10 therapies. Maybe I should look into therapy. So I found myself a therapist who was really familiar with trauma and understood children from trauma and what parenting them may look like. And just having someone who was not my friend, who wasn't there to make me feel good or tell me, it's okay, all kids do that, when I sort of know that's not true, was really, really helpful for me. And that's an hour a week for me. And just in doing that, I found that I need to do something every day and not wait until I'm doing poorly to meet my own needs. I need to do something every day. And sometimes it is just quiet coffee. I invested in some Bose noise-canceling headphones, which are expensive but worth every penny. I love them. I just will sometimes put them on and wave at the kids as they play outside. I don't know what they're saying. I can see them, but I don't have to hear it. So just giving yourself something daily, some quiet, some space, I think is necessary for a lot of families.
I used to be really frustrated when I would hear people say, oh, you need to be making sure you take care of yourself. And my initial response was always like, how? How can I do that and still meet the safety needs of my children? And so, I try to be really careful when I talk to parents about self-care because it can almost feel like just another level of guilt. Oh my gosh, I'm not taking care of myself and I'm going to, end up in this place, and so what I try to say is much like what Allison was just talking about, of just really embracing whatever that moment is. I love the idea of those noise-canceling headphones. That's so good. I have some Bluetooth ones, but they're not totally noise-canceling. I can hear it. But I being able, like I said, a little bit ago, and Mommy Needs a Minute, of being willing to just take, 3 times a day, if we take deep breaths, we actually neurologically help our brains. We can actually decrease stress and anxiety levels in ourselves by doing that. It's just a matter of allowing ourselves to, and really taking 3 deep breaths doesn't take us away from our kids. So if there's a safety issue where you can't really leave them alone, or you don't have the personal support. Now, if you do, finding that personal support is very critical. Trying to find other people that you can have contact with, and whether that be a therapist or friends who are willing to listen and not try to fix your problems or judge you. But I just don't want any mom out there or dad to be discouraged that they feel like they can't take care of themselves. You know, if you have to start off with just taking some deep breaths at certain moments and saying, "Mommy needs a minute," then that's a good place to start. And then also to find those people around you who are probably wanting to help. There's probably 1 or 2 people out there who want to, but they're not sure how to, and they don't want to offend you by asking
Right.
if they can help. So being willing to ask.
Fantastic.
Well, I think. Oh, go ahead. No, okay.
I was just going to get filler, so.
Oh, okay. I think for me, self-care, and it has to be a conscious effort on my part, is not to worry about keeping up with the Joneses, if you will, not comparing my family to their family, my, summer to their summer. Everyone always asks, "Oh, do you have anything special planned this summer?" Well, no, not really. Just chilling out here at home over the summer. Oh, that's nice to do sometimes. And it's like, yeah, that's what we do, period. Because, traveling is so difficult for our kids, either on the trip or coming back. And so, I can't compare myself like to the Pinterest moms or dads who are doing all these wonderful things. Our 4th of July has to be pretty mellow because I have a daughter with sensory challenges and anxiety. So we have to do it at home. She has to have that option to go inside if she's getting overwhelmed. And a lot of times one of us needs to go inside with her because she's also feeling anxious. So, yeah, I mean, and I was going to say something else and I forgot. But I would say just not only that, I would piggyback on that you shouldn't feel guilty about the situation you're in and not being able to, whether it be provide all these things to your children that other families do, whether it's because of their challenges and you're concerned about leaving them, or maybe it's financial. But to look for those little things that you can do for yourself during the day and not feel guilty if you're not being this perfect parent. Like, there's all this stuff out there about electronics. The kids shouldn't have so many electronics. Well, I'm sorry. If I'm having a rough day, which is every day because I'm really sensitive to auditory stimulation, sorry guys, they're going to be sitting in front of the TV doing something. It's just to keep us all sane. And then you have the parents who don't do that stuff with their kids, but you have to tell yourself, it's okay that I'm doing this. This is what works for me. What works for me isn't gonna, work for everyone. And then finally, I think you should treat yourself sometimes. I mentioned the coffee. Just, whatever. We just got a dog. I wanted the dog. It was for me. It was not for the kids or my hubby. It was for me because dogs are supposed to help with mental health and ease depression and everything. And I've been under a lot of stress lately. And it's been good because the dog's gotten me out of the house. So, that's just an example. That's a big example. But, just figuring out what you need and doing it, not feeling bad about it.
Well, Sana, you guys are talking about basically it's different ways of parenting. But I'm hearing some of that even from what Lynn is saying here at the end here. parenting looks different. We were even talking that a little bit before we started the panel. What do you guys think, or what have you experienced that looks different for foster or adoptive parents than I don't know, the family that's going to head off to Disney World for a week? What looks different for us, and is it okay? What's okay that it's different? If that
Oh,
makes
I would love to share about this. Just because I can find the humor in what was so painful several years ago. You know, my family we had two children that we adopted through foster care, who had been traveling with us and doing okay with that, and we said yes to a placement of a little boy right before a family vacation, and in my mind, I was thinking, oh, he's gonna love this. He's never been to someplace and it actually was Disney we were going to. He's never been here, and it's going to be really fun. And this child was about 2, and he screamed a high-pitched wail all the way from Tennessee to Florida. When we got there, we actually met with my in-laws, and when they opened the front door to their home to welcome us, he lost his mind, and he continued to cry basically for a week. And it just helped me to realize what I think of as fun and exciting, doing something new, trying new things, trying new foods, not knowing what's going to happen next. Those things were actually terrifying for my children. They were terrified every moment during that trip. And luckily we did call that early and come home. But I feel like I really learned from that. But during it, it was pretty miserable for everyone. And so the things that a lot of families look forward to are things that not just our kids don't like, but that actively cause their brain to say, you are about to die. You are in danger.
Right.
And so that needs to be different then. We don't do those exact things anymore. And so, our kids they're wired for fear, not for fun. And I've said that 100 times, but every time I say it, I'm reminding myself. They're wired for fear, not for fun, at least until they have that perceived safety, which can take a long time depending on that child's history and their genetic makeup and their biological makeup. So they're wired for fear.
Well, that was a good reminder for me. Thanks.
When we had to learn to parent our children differently, and actually with our oldest, who is the one who was adopted, we kind of got away with traditional parenting techniques for a little while because out of the fight, flight, or freeze, he was a freeze kid. And so he could look as though he was coping, but what was really happening was that he wasn't. He was freezing on us, and he would just kind of shut down, and I'd be like, oh, he's just such a quiet, withdrawn kid, kind of thing. Our youngest then, with his neurological issues, he was on a feeding tube and had a lot of early medical trauma, and what we discovered was he was a fight kid, and because of the fight kid and the explosions we had in our home, we had to learn to parent differently. And so what we discovered then is that using non-punitive connective strategies works well for all kids. And in my work with a public school system, I work with all types of families. So I work with kiddos that come from difficult places and parents who come from difficult places and parents who come from very well, warm, loving, nurturing homes. And what I will say is that though connective, neurodevelopmentally appropriate, non-punitive strategies actually are the best for all parents and all kids. It's just that if you don't have a kid from a hard place or a kid who is wired for fear, per se, wired for fear, you can kind of get away with it. It's just that it's not necessarily the best. And so I hope that is encouraging to adoptive parents out there to realize that what you're doing is actually just really good parenting. And it's just that you have been encouraged to, or maybe we could use the word force, that's a little strong, but to learn and do things differently, because your kiddos are able and have to show you how it's affecting them in ways that other kids can kind of cope with. So again, I would say the typical parenting tends to focus on punishment and reward. You know, trying and believing that kids do well when they want to. And if we can just only motivate them to be able to achieve the behavior we want. You know, good connected parenting really recognizes that kids do well when they can. And that requires us as parents to be connecting, to be using humor in a way that is positive, to be able to connect with those kiddos, to be able to teach them that the world is safe, and to realize that as we do that, their behaviors are going to change. No amount of sticker charts or consequences, timeouts are going to fix that in a child. And that's true no matter where the child comes from. It's just especially true for our kiddos who come from difficult backgrounds.
Awesome. Yeah, I hope everyone feels like they have a super cape now.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. I'm going to go ahead. This is the last question that I have for you guys. And it is probably the big question that all stay-at-home parents are wondering about during the summer, and it's more practical, is what are you going to do with the kids? You know, what are we going to do with the kids now that they're home? Like, we got them all day. Do you guys have any activity ideas for our kiddos with their needs? And do you have any economical ideas, like some good, cheap fun?
Well, I am a big believer in routine. And so if these kids are, for about 9 months, they're in a certain routine that it doesn't have to be the same routine, but they do need a routine during the summer. The things that we do that are routine, if you will, and economical is that there's a really great reading program at the library, and they get a book if they complete it, and so every year we sign up for that. I'll be honest, we don't always finish it. Some of it has to do with control challenges, but you know, that's something we do. I don't know if this is everywhere or just in our area. There are certain movie theaters that have dollar movies the same day each week, and so if it's a movie that we want to see, I mean, even if it's something we just rented, just to get out of the house and into a different setting, because here in Sacramento, I mean, we go over 100 a lot. You know, that's cheap. I do encourage the kids to go play outside and get messy, and I mean, our yard is just, it's a very kid-friendly yard. And when they were younger, I would look stuff up and try to do crafts, especially sensory type things. I don't do that so much anymore, just because they're getting older. But you know, there are a lot of things that I think we can do with our kids and we can enjoy. And my mother actually reminded me of this a couple of years ago in a letter she sent to my older daughter for her birthday, which was, I like to sit outside and drink a glass of lemonade when I read. And I thought, oh, what a great idea to do on a day that is not quite so hot, and it's a treat for them because we try to limit their sweets, and it's something we can do together. And my girls jumped on board with that. They were very excited. Um, so that's the sort of stuff. I mean, biggest being routine and trying to make things predictable.
Well, and I like that too with the lemonade because that's actually building bonding into them. Like you're carrying on a tradition that, hey, my mom did this. Now, I remember it, and now you're a child, and this is something I remember in my childhood, and now you're getting to experience it, and we're sharing. So I think it's awesome. It's family bonding right there, and it's building relationship with them, which is something they need help learning how to form. Any other ideas for economical or just good summer fun, sensory activities, anything?
We do tons of sensory activities in our house. My three youngest children they all have sensory issues. And so we try to do a pretty structured time of sensory play every day. We have added an area in our home that is all sensory stuff, and I am super cheap. So I try to first go to thrift stores. So during the year, I scour thrift stores to find things like yoga balls, and they are there all the time because people buy them thinking they're going to work out, and they never do. So we get tons of yoga balls.
Classic. I never thought of that.
They're everywhere. We've bought lots of workout equipment, actually, from thrift stores. My son is 10, so he's now starting to want to do less of sensory play, but he still needs that sensory input. So we have changed our name for that, and now he's doing sports training. So it's a lot of workout with resistance bands. We've bought like gazelle gliders for him that he can use. And a lot of times we'll put him on the back porch so he's outside and able to do those, and he can choose those on his own time. With my little kids, I do lots of sensory bins. So we have rice and beans and beads and all kinds of things for them for tactile development. We do lots of water play outside, and I used to get irritated with that just because it's a little messy. I've completely given up my control of that, and I just let them dig a hole, fill it with water, and play in the mud.
Oh, that's awesome.
If it's fun and they're enjoying it, they can get in the shower and clean up, right? We do not play with shaving cream. Just anything that involves the five senses, we will do often. And a lot of those things you can purchase at the dollar store. We buy kiddie pools at the end of the summer and just store them for next summer when they're on clearance. Those are fabulous to just have a few, so everybody has their own if you have children that fuss about sharing their space. So we just love to do sensory time, usually morning and then again in the evening.
That's awesome. So how long do you do sensory time for? Is it like about an hour?
It kind of depends on the children, but I do prefer for it to be around an hour just because I want them to do a couple of different activities. And then we do lots of brain breaks during the day. So they are short times when they're doing some sensory work. I may ask one of the boys to carry a very heavy box for me, and that's really just sensory work, right? That's proprioceptive work for them. And I do a lot of telling them how weak I am and that I really need those strong muscles to help. So they enjoy helping.
That's awesome. That is so cool. Deanne, did you have anything you wanted to throw in on there?
Well, I just love these ideas, and I'm going to take some of them and implement them myself here. But
for sure.
Yeah, we are pretty fortunate in that, it's nice to have a couple of friends who have pools. And that's the best kind of pool to have because, it's not right in your backyard and causing all kinds of problems, but you can go over and swim for an hour or so. So we go swimming a lot. We also live about 30 minutes from Lake Michigan here in Northwest Indiana, and so there are lots and lots of beaches, and the boys love to go to the beach. And so we will go and have beach days. My youngest, he seems to be okay in those instances, but just as far as playing outside, the sensory input, if it's very hot and humid outside, it's very difficult for him, and he melts down pretty fast. And so we do things sometimes. He loves to have picnics, so sometimes we do indoor picnics. So we do picnics in the living room. And the library is very good. We also have, we've tried to work as a community. I've tried to work really hard getting to know my neighbors so that we can try to take turns inviting the neighborhood children to our homes, so they're getting that positive experience of, learning social skills in the summer when I'm around with some other kids. So we try to do quite a bit of that, and none of that really requires much money. So.
Those are great ideas, you guys. And I know we actually just started putting one of our vlogs that we put up is we actually made a schedule. We're pretty big right now. We're trying to stick to a schedule where we have, like in the morning, we do exercise time because our kids are older and so they don't want to hear sensory stuff or whatever. So we have a lot of trails by our house that are nice, so we actually go for a run and a walk. And we're trying to get that in, and then they're outside, and they can get sweaty, and they can get dirty, and they can take the dog, like my mother-in-law's dog, with them if they want to, and different things like that. So that's cheap, and it's getting them out. It's sensory. It's all sorts of stuff. But we try to keep them to a schedule. We haven't done a very good job with it, but we have like 1 hour built in on Tuesday and Thursday where we try to do some school time with them too, so they don't lose a lot. And it's not hardcore school stuff either. It's like fun stuff, or I don't know, math, or just practicing writing letters or something like that. Just something easy and fun, just so that they get that stuff in there. But I like those ideas, you guys. Those are really good. Do you have any? Does anyone know any place that parents could go look up something online or anything if they wanted to find ideas, if they're looking for anything? Maybe not.
I have a Pinterest page. I promise there's nothing on there that will make you feel guilty. Everything on there is made to support families who have kids from trauma backgrounds, and you can find that by searching on Pinterest, Harmony Family Advocacy. And I have tons of sensory ideas and just lots of activities that are for social and emotional growth that look fun, but really we're teaching our kids those skills they sometimes lack, like naming their feelings, self-control, and those are things that you can do during the summer just because you do have a little more time. There's no homework. And so you can bring those in and make them look like fun, even though they're teaching pretty valuable lessons.
Fantastic. Well, we have about 10 minutes here, and then I need to close up shop to pay attention to everyone's time, you guys. Housekeeping, if you are watching and you want to get your question in, please tweet your question to #TAdopt. Or there's also a Q&A panel on this Google Hangout if you're with us live, and you can type in your question and we will answer it. But I just have time for a few questions here. This one that I'll take is, when we started fostering, we thought it would be different. My husband and I love to travel, but we can't take our kids anywhere. The youngest is a runner, and the oldest isn't safe to be around other children. Whenever we do manage to go on a day trip even, they manage to sabotage things. I feel like I'm trapped in my home for the summer. Can I get out of the house somehow?
Yes, you can. You can. It's just not going to look like you want it to look. So after our pretty yucky vacations, my husband and I realized that if we wanted to do things the way we wanted to, that was completely fine. But our kids were not going to be able to do that. So we actually, for a couple of years, and still do on occasion, take mom vacations or dad vacations. And because we didn't have childcare for our children, we just went by ourselves or with a friend. And so one of my favorite times that I did this, I just took a day trip to Nashville. It's a couple hours from where I live. I went to a museum. I went to a great restaurant. I stayed at a great hotel that my children would have hated because you can't touch things because they're old and fancy. And I did that by myself. So can you travel? Absolutely. It just might not be with your kids. And then when I came home from that, we did fun things at home. And so our kids were part of it, but the away time was just me. And I felt really great coming back because I did get what I needed, which was to go to a museum and eat a great meal. And my kids got what they needed, which was to do the things they always do. And so I think that that's a really good way to get your needs met. But I know some folks are nervous about traveling by themselves. I think a great thing you could do is meet another mom or dad who's living the same life that you have, and maybe you guys can trade off and travel, trade childcare, so you can travel with your spouse or your partner.
Fantastic. Did anyone else have any ideas on that one, or let that one stand?
The only thing that I would add is, and it sounds like in this situation that this might not be the case, but for some parents out there who feeling like they can't travel with their children because their children are, screaming from one place to another, I really would highly suggest looking up sensory travel needs for kids. One of the things that we discovered several things that really help and enable our youngest to be able to travel. He would scream from the time he was a toddler. He would scream if we were on the road for more than a half an hour, and just scream as if somebody was hurting him. And so we thought we were never going to be able to travel anywhere beyond a half an hour because we just couldn't take it. But one of the things we discovered was that he really felt out of control with his not having his body firmly grounded in the car and being stuck in a certain position. And so we began to do some sensory things for traveling, and that has really enabled us to be able to, we're still at probably a maximum of 6 to 7 hours in the car, total for a day, even with all the stops. But we do sensory breaks. We do crazy things like crab races and wheelbarrow races and stuff at gas stations. And
Really?
people are looking at us like we're crazy. It doesn't really matter. We also create like a little cave for him with pillows and blankets, and he has to have something that goes underneath his feet so that his feet are firmly up high enough where he can feel grounded in the space. There's just so many different things that we didn't realize that were bothering him while we were traveling. So some parents may feel like they can't travel, but it might be about trying to problem solve what are the sensory issues that are causing problems for your child that may enable them to travel.
I never even thought about sensory needs while traveling, so I'm glad you brought that up because I'd never even heard about that.
Yeah,
I did that when we first got our kids.
Yeah, there's actually a whole book written about it, and of course the name is escaping me right at the moment, but I'll try to see if I can find that while everybody else is talking and get the name out to you, because it was so helpful, all the different possibilities to look for as far as sensory issues while you're traveling and the things that you can do to help them.
Well, I'd also like to say that some of the challenges with traveling could also be like directly trauma-induced. It could be creating maybe a flashback, or it's just triggering something. My older daughter, I mean, this was every day. She had to have a cup of water with her. Know where it was at home, but then she would just go to tears if she didn't have it in the car. And that's a really simple example, but maybe there is something from the children's past that is triggering it, and trying to figure out what that is might make things more bearable too. I mean, maybe this child lived in a car for a while, for example, and so going in the car is not a pleasant experience.
Right.
That sort of thing.
I know the first time that we got our first foster placements, and I think a couple weeks later my grandfather passed away, and so we had to make a 6-hour road trip, and we did it in the middle of the night thinking, well, all the other parents, because we'd never parented before, so we're like, well, all the other parents tell us to do it in the middle of the night because they'll sleep, and then we wake up and we're all happy, and it was screaming deathly murder for 6 hours, and we were tired, and we were going through it was horrible. I felt like there were going to be like 3 more funerals because I was like, we're going to all kill ourselves when we're going to be laying next to Grandpa. So, the next question, let's see, let me choose this one. We just adopted our 7-year-old daughter a little over a year ago. Yay. Last year we did not put, I think it was probably more like, yay, but last year we did not put her into summer camp because we wanted to be sure and bond well with her. Boy, are we glad we did, because she has major meltdowns and anger issues. We really need her in something this summer because of our work schedules. There are a couple of camps I'd like to get her into still this year. What do I tell the camp staff?
Well, I don't know exactly the situation. My children do have meltdowns, but it's generally with us and not with others. So you may look out in that way. You can explain the trauma background and explain how you handle the meltdowns. And this is what we always did when we dropped our girls off at camp. Gave them background, told them what things could look like, or the triggering, like my youngest, she has anxiety, and so when she's starting to feel anxious, she will do certain things. For a long time, she would bite on her like her sleeve or her collar, something on her clothes, or she would scratch. It was like a nervous itch or something. And so we could tell them, this is something to look for. She's getting overstimulated. She's getting nervous. Take her aside and, help her calm down. She was also scared of loud noises like vacuums and lawnmowers. So the camps they went to, they were outdoor camps at local parks, and so we would tell them that. And then my older daughter, for a very long time, had no concept of stranger danger, and so we had to tell them about that. She's really sweet and friendly, but do not let her out of your sight because you might lose her. She'll go with anyone. So that would be my recommendation, and just keep the lines of communication open. If you have read any helpful books, recommend them to the camp counselors. You may want to even, again, ours was through a park, so if we had any concerns, we could go to the park district, the person who's in charge of the camps. So whatever you choose to get your children involved in, or your daughter, excuse me, you may want to talk to someone at the supervisor level. And I do know there are private organizations also that cater to children who have been through trauma, and like there's a horse sanctuary, I believe, in Wisconsin that it's a camp for kids who have been through trauma. So something like that.
Right. Very good.
How old is this child again?
7.
7 years old.
Okay, 7. I guess I would look for what would fit best for her. A camp opportunity might be best, but maybe something smaller would be better at it. much childcare they need for the summer, but maybe finding someone who specifically deals with kids with traumatic backgrounds or kids with challenging behaviors, or who is willing to work hard at that. Some camps are going to be better than others, but a lot of camps, at least around here, are many of the workers are college students who may or may not be equipped to be able to deal with your child. So I guess it really depends on where you are. I would just say do your research and find what you can, and then ask lots of questions about how it is that they respond to children with special challenges. Because the last thing that you would want is to send her into a situation where she's going to be receiving more trauma. So, yeah, I think asking a lot of questions is really good. I also found the name of that book. It's Angie Voss, and it's Understanding Your Sensory Processing Child, and then Traveling. It has an addendum to it, Traveling with a Sensory Processing Kiddo. So, Angie is her name. It's a very good book.
I'm writing that down. That's going to find its way on our book list here.
Yeah, it's been a real one that I've kept with me since he's 10 and he was diagnosed at 3, so for 7 years I've held on to that.
Well, I have time for one more here. I have 3 kids at home for the summer. The oldest is 8, and I feel causes the most problems with the younger 2. If you take the 8-year-old out of the mix, it's a quieter home. I already don't know if I'll survive the summer. I feel like I'm yelling all the time. Any ideas?
Get lots of education about trauma. Refresh yourself if you already have that education, because I think the more we remember that it's not our children behaving badly, they're not wanting to cause problems, that it helps us to react differently. The more that we can just remind ourselves that it's not our child choosing to behave poorly, that we have to assist that kid in making some changes. I think I've also been in this situation where I have 4, and one is sort of the little tornado that gets everyone else spun up.
That was a diplomatic name.
Like, my initial idea, too, is remove that child from the situation. But if you're consistently removing, then he's not getting the chance to get it right. So doing a lot of Dr. Purvis do-overs is a really good way to do that. But also having some help can be a good strategy. We hired a fantastic like mom's helper who comes in. I'm there, but she also came in, and that way she could be playing with a couple of the kids. I'm doing something with another kid, and that was really helpful. And the way we found her was through the local university, their special ed department. So she already had experience working with kids with behavioral, neurological challenges. And then she's just been such a great resource for us.
I just want to add in there that, obviously Dr. Karen Purvis is an excellent resource. And, we all come into adoption and parenting children from traumatic backgrounds with different levels of experience and knowledge. And some agencies and organizations and DCFSs provide a lot of good training, and others not so much. And so we don't know really where you're coming from, but I really encourage you to, again, refresh, but not only add Dr. Purvis, but someone like Dr. Ross Green with livesinthebalance.org. He provides a lot of free things that are there, so if you can't afford to get a book and get the videos from Dr. Purvis, you can get all of that information on Dr. Green's website. The only thing that's missing there is he doesn't explain why, but he really works hard at helping us know how to respond and to work collaboratively with our children. You know, when we as parents believe and put this pressure on ourselves that we have to try to control our children's behavior, it is so much pressure on us that then we're putting on them. And we cannot control another person's behavior no matter what we do. We can't. And that is one of the advantages that we have as parents, is that we, parenting kiddos from traumatic backgrounds, we realize that that's the case, that we cannot control our kids. And we can only connect and provide opportunities for healing and opportunities for learning to solve problems. And the more we solve problems together with our children, the more they're all going to learn. And so that oldest one may be causing a lot of the issues, but is also giving you the younger two, a lot of opportunities to learn to collaborate, to learn to work together with people who are difficult. And so that's not a bad thing either. And while everybody might need a break every once in a while, and that's okay too, it's really, you can also see it as a really positive thing for everybody to have the opportunity to learn to work together and learn to work through really tough stuff together. So I hope that's encouraging.
We love collaborative problem solving in our house too. It's a really great way to look at our kids.
Absolutely.
I did also want to mention, here in California anyway, they have respite care through the state. I don't know the steps involved, but if you really feel like you need some help, and again, here in California, it doesn't cost anything. It's funded through the state. You can always try calling and seeing if you can get some help. I have a friend whose daughter has reactive attachment disorder, and she was able to get respite care so that this person could work with her daughter in the morning to get ready for school, because that always caused problems, and then she could focus on the other children. So that might be a useful resource tool. Now I have a temper. I'm Italian, and this was actually recommended to me by someone. I cannot take credit for it, but if you're ever feeling angry, frustrated, like you are going to lose it, grab a tray of ice cubes, go into your bathroom, shut the door, turn on the fan, and throw them as hard as you can into the shower. And they break and they make a lot of noise, and you can really fling them hard, and you can get it out without losing it in front of the kids. And you can even tell them, I was really mad, I had to go throw some ice cubes, which is kind of maybe off of the subject a bit of what was asked, but if you have those 3 kids and you are going nuts because one of them is, you know, doing these things that are making things difficult, it's you know, a good, safe thing to do, and I think it's also modeling an appropriate way to deal with this stuff if you just feel like you have to explode.
It's a sensory activity for mom.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm getting ready to go get some ice cubes. Come on. Well, and I think the other thing too that I thought of while you guys were talking too was simplification. Is that if you can afford to get paper plates and, you know, paper net, like, simplify it. Maybe for the summer you're not, like, I know, like, we know a lot of parents that are trying to keep the nutrition just right and eat clean, and maybe you're not during the summer because, you know what, you've got 3 kids at home, and you need to just, because that takes a lot of energy to do everything that we're talking about, the collaborative, you know, like solving the problem, solving the issue. That does take energy, but if you just have to throw a frozen pizza in the oven and then throw away the paper plates, that'll make it a lot easier to pay attention to the relationships, which is what really counts in the end, right? So that's the last question that I'm going to take, you guys, because we're 12 minutes over. Did you guys have any last thing that you wanted to share out there to the world about thriving during the summer? If not, I'll shut her down.
I just want to encourage all the parents out there to know that, you know what, you don't have to beat yourself up, and that you can be encouraged that you are enough, and that your time with your kiddos will be thriving. And there's an alarm going off telling me something here in my house.
Go take care of it. Go take care of it. I had the doorbell ringing too, so.
Well, I would just like to encourage parents to, you know, look for the good, the little things, and to not beat yourself up if you make mistakes, because you're going to, and it's okay. You have to be as kind to yourself as you are to these children. Understand that they are, you know, dealing with the trauma in their own way, and you are dealing with their trauma in your own way, and you know, it's okay. Everything is okay. You know, one mistake is not going to make everything just fall apart, and I think to, again, help you feel like everything is not so bad, it's to look for the little stuff in them and in you, the good things.
Awesome.
I think every foster and adoptive parent needs to find a tribe of families, of parents who do this work, who can encourage you, who can keep you accountable to doing your best parenting, and can just send you a text and say, "You've got this today," when you're laying on the floor thinking, "I don't even have the energy to put in a frozen pizza." Because those folks are going to keep you going. They're going to celebrate with you when your kids are doing well, and they're going to cry with you when your kids aren't doing well. So keep looking for those folks, whether it's locally or online, or through groups like Transfiguring Adoption. It's just great to meet other folks who are doing this work so that we can support each other.
And all of you are amazing. I thank you so much to our panelists for joining us. I hope you realize what gems that you were able to hear and see through this panel discussion. All of them are online through their various venues, and you can connect with them and talk with them further through that. And I just also want to remind everyone that July 22nd, we will be having our next panel discussion online, so hope you can join us for that. We're going to be talking about coping with being investigated as a caregiver. So that is going to be an interesting talk, and we have some interesting experts that are going to be able to speak into you and keep you calm and keep you cool-headed while that's going on. And I just want to thank everyone for joining us. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out all the information that we have at our website at www.transfiguringadoption.com. Ladies, if you want to stay on while I stop broadcast, I will tell. Oh, let me tell that real quick. Don't forget the sensory stuff that we were doing. Oh, I just lost it. I just had the sensory stuff that we were talking about, that Allison was talking about, can be found on Pinterest at Harmony Family Advocacy. So check that out, because she has some neat sensory ideas that are very cheap, very quality though, that you can do with your kiddos this summer. And please visit some of our ideas and things that we have on transfiguringadoption.com. My name's Darren Fink, and I hope this has helped you to nurture and grow your foster and adoptive family.